Hey everyone, today I'm going to be discussing about the vehicle light circuit maintenance, diagnosis, and service. Also, I'm going to be talking about the headlight aiming, tail light, stop light, and park light circuit maintenance, diagnosis, and service. But first off, I'm going to tell you about the learning objectives, which is explain voltage drop in a headlight circuit, describe the precautions to be observed when servicing halogen bulbs, describe general headlight aiming procedures, and explain how to test bulbs and fuses. It is extremely important for all the lights on a vehicle to be operating properly. For example, if the tail lights on a vehicle are not working, a driver approaching the vehicle from the rear after dark may not see the vehicle soon enough to avoid an accident. Inoperative brake lights may cause a vehicle to be hit from the rear because the driver of the vehicle approaching from the rear did not realize the vehicle in front was going to stop. If one headlight is not working or the headlights are aimed too low, the driver has reduced visibility at night, and this may result in a collision. Vehicle owners may not be aware that some of the lights on their vehicle are not working. Therefore, the lights should be checked when the vehicle is brought into the shop for service, and any deficiency should be brought to the owner's attention. Headlight maintenance involves checking the headlights each time a vehicle is brought to the shop for service. Be sure to check the headlights on high, low beam, and any other headlight features such as cornering lamps. Be sure the battery is fully charged and that battery terminals are clean and tight before any light diagnosis. When the engine is running, charging circuit voltage is supplied to all the lights that are turned on. Therefore, improper charging circuit operations affects the light circuits. For example, if the headlights become considerably brighter when the engine RPM is increased, this could indicate that charging voltage may be excessive or that there are more amps being used by the electrical system than the alternator can provide at low RPMs. Normal charging voltage is between 14.2 volts and 14.8 volts with the engine at normal operating temperature. Excessively high charging circuit voltage may also cause repeated failure of headlights and other lights. Excessively high charging system voltage also results in too much gassing of water from the battery. High resistance in the highlight, or rather in the headlight circuits, reduces current flow and causes dim headlights. If the high resistance is in the ground of one headlight, only that light is dim. A voltage drop test with the headlights on measures high resistance in the headlight circuit. The voltage drop is the measurement of the difference in the voltage between 2 points in the circuit. Being able to accurately perform a good voltage drop test is a very valuable skill that is used in all areas of the vehicle that have electrical systems and is worth the extra time put in practicing. Select a low scale on the voltmeter and connect the voltmeter across the part of the circuit in which high resistance is suspected. For example, to measure the voltage drop across the headlight ground, connect the voltmeter positive lead to the headlight ground and the negative lead to the negative battery terminal. The small measurement that is read is the amount lost by the connections in the ground circuit. If this exceeds specifications, a more thorough inspection is necessary to find the source of the loss. In order to narrow down a more specific source, multiple voltage drop tests will need to be performed on small segments of the circuit. In most parts of the headlight circuit, except the headlight itself, voltage drop over 0.2 volts is excessive. Excessive voltage drop through a connector is the most common fault in the light system. Pay attention to connectors that are exposed to harsh environments such as fog light or headlight connectors that are repeatedly subjected to water or road chemicals. So in terms of the headlight diagnosis, these are the symptoms, possible cause, and the remedy that you're gonna have ideally. One symptom is the headlights is not light. Could be a possible cause would be a loose wiring. And remedy is check and secure connections at headlight switch and dash panel connector. And another possible cause could be an open circuit in wiring. Check possible, or rather check power to and from headlight switch. Repair as necessary. Worn or damaged headlight switch. Verify condition of the headlight switch, then replace headlight switch if necessary. Symptoms: one headlight does not work. It could be loose wiring connections and just secure connections to headlight and ground. Another, seal beam bulb burnout. Just replace the bulb. And a corroded socket, repair or replace as required. And you have to find out what causes the corroded socket, what causes the corrosion. It could be a leak, water leak entering into the socket, or a rainwater leak entering into the socket. So you have to find that out. Another symptom is the headlights out, but the park and taillights are okay. And could be loose wiring connections. Just check and secure connections at dimmer switch and headlight switch. Then worn or damaged dimmer switch. Check dimmer switch operation. Inspect for corroded connector. Replace if required. Another would be a worn or damaged headlight switch. Verify condition of the switch. Replace headlight switch as necessary. Open circuit and wiring of poor ground. You have to find out along the wiring harness where the location of the open circuit could be a cut wiring, damaged wiring, and you have to find that out and repair if required. Another is both low beam or both high beam headlights do not work. It could be a loose wiring connection, and check secure connection at the dimmer switch and headlight switch. Check dimmer switch operation, replace if required. The most common headlight service is changing and aiming headlights. The headlight replacement procedures varies depending on the vehicle and the type of the headlights. Be sure the headlights are turned off before a headlight replacement procedure. When these lights are turned off, there is no voltage at the lights, therefore the battery disconnecting is not required. So you may not disconnect the battery cable from the battery terminal from the negative terminal of the battery. And the typical seal beam headlight replacement procedure would be one, place fender covers like that one to protect the fenders, the paint of the fenders, or protecting it or damaging the fenders. Remove the bezel retaining screws and remove the bezel surrounding the headlight. Remove the 4 seal beam retaining ring screws, but do not turn the headlight adjustment screws. Why? Because you don't want to readjust the headlight aim when you are putting back the headlight. So just don't touch the adjusting screws on the seal beam. Remove the seal beam retaining ring and the seal beam. Disconnect the wiring connector from the back of the seal beam. So this wire and connector adapter is connected at the back of the seal beam or the headlight. Inspect the terminals in the wiring connector for corrosion and clean these terminals required. You can place a dielectric grease on the connector for, lubrication, to lubricate or to clean and lubricate the terminals on the new seal beam terminals to prevent corrosion or prevent getting rusted. Install the wiring connector on the seal beam terminals and be sure to connect. This connector is fully seated. Okay, sometimes it does not. The connector is not fully seated and it's a bit hard to push into the seal beam, so you have to make sure that it is fully seated. Install the new seal beam with the embossed number at the top. Install the seal beam retaining ring and screws. Turn the headlight switch on and be sure the seal beam operates on both on low and high beam. If not, then you have to recheck. You have to check the connector. Maybe the connector is still loose or something. Install the headlight bezel and retaining screws and check and readjust the headlight aim as necessary. But if not, then you don't have to do that. Warning for mechanics: when halogen headlight bulbs are illuminated, they become very hot and do not touch halogen bulbs or attaching hardware immediately after the headlights have been turned off. Do not attempt to clean or replace halogen bulbs when the lights are on. So when it comes to halogen bulb replacement in composite headlights, on some composite headlights, the bulb wiring terminals are not accessible behind the headlights. On most of these lights, two steel pins on top of the headlight assembly may be removed to allow the complete assembly to come forward out of the chassis. This action allows access to the wiring connectors and bulbs. So again, do not touch the glass envelope on a halogen bulb with your fingers. When oil from your skin is deposited on this envelope, bulb life is shortened, and you don't want that to happen. So typical replacement procedure for halogen bulb in composite headlight is be sure the headlight is switched off, place fenders cover over the vehicle body in the work area, remove the cap over the rear of the bulb, remove the wiring connector from the bulb and remove the retaining spring, remove the bulb from the composite headlight. Okay. Inspect the wiring connector for corrosion and clean as required. Install the new bulb in the headlight and install the retaining ring. Install the wiring connector and the bulb cap and turn the headlight switch on and be sure the headlight operates on low and high beam. Headlight aim is very important. Headlight that is misaimed by 1 degree downward reduces the driver's vision distance by 156 feet. If the headlight aim is too high, the headlight tends to reduce the vision of oncoming drivers, creating a possible driving hazard. Now, typical procedure for aligning seal beam headlights is park the vehicle on a level floor. Be sure the vehicle has a normal load and the specified tire inflation. As weight is added to the rear of the vehicle, the headlights will start to point higher. So you have to avoid putting on some weights on the trunk, as the headlights will start to point higher. Install fender covers over the vehicle body in the work area. Then select the proper headlight aimer adapter for the headlights being aligned. These adapters must fit over the aiming pads on the headlights. Aiming pads are small projections on the front of headlights lens. Be sure the seal beam outer surface is clean. Attach the headlight aimers to the seal beam using the suction cups on the aimers, and be sure the aimer sight opening face each other. like this one. So side opening must face each other. Zero the horizontal adjustment dial in one of the aimers. Be sure the split image target lines are visible in the aimer viewport. Turn the headlight horizontal adjustment screw until the target lines in viewport are aligned. Then set the vertical adjustment dial on the opposite headlight. Set the vertical adjustment dial to 0 on one of the aimers and then turn the vertical aim adjustment screw until the bubble is centered in the aimer. Okay. Many composite headlights have curved outer surfaces and special adapters are required to mount the headlight aimers properly on these headlights. Each composite headlights assembly has numbers molded into the headlight beside its aiming pad. Each adjustment rod setting on the aimer adapter must match the number on the composite headlight aiming pad on which the adjustment rod will be placed. The adjustment rod setting must be locked in this position. After the adjustment rod setting is completed, the aimers are attached to the composite headlights and the headlights adjustment is performed using the same procedure for sealed beams. Some vehicles do not have aiming pads on the headlights. These headlights may be aligned with the vehicle parked on a level floor 25 feet back from a blank wall. The vehicle must have a normal load and the specified tire inflation. The tire should not be overinflated or either underinflated. The center line of the vehicle and the vertical and horizontal center lines of its headlight must be marked on the wall, and the vehicle must be perpendicular to the wall. With the headlights on high beam, the center of its light beam should be at the specified location on the wall. The amount of headlight beam drop may be specified by state or other regulations. Rotate the headlight aiming screws as necessary to place the light beams at the specified location. Some older model vehicles have levels built into the headlight assemblies. This spirit level allows the driver to adjust the headlights in relation to the load in the vehicle. If a heavy load is placed in the trunk, the headlight beams become too high. Under this condition, the driver may adjust the vertical headlight aiming screws to level the bubbles in its spirit level. And after the load is removed from the trunk, the headlight beams will be too low and the driver may turn the vertical aiming screws to re-center the bubbles in the spirit levels. Tail light, stop light, and park light circuit maintenance, diagnosis, and service. The maintenance on any light circuit is basically the same. This maintenance includes regular inspections to determine if all the lights are working properly. Light circuit inspection should also include checking the wiring harness for frayed insulation, broken harness retainers, and improper contact between the harness and other components. So diagnosis on the tail, stop, and park light would be, the centers would be like one tail light out. Possible cause for this would be bulb burnout. Just replace the bulb. And open wiring or poor ground. You have to open the, you have to find the open wiring was probably a wire cut or a damaged wire. And poor ground could be a loose ground or maybe the fastener is missing from the ground terminals or something like that, or corroded bulb socket, and find out what causes the corrosion in the bulb socket. Could be leaking water or leaking water, rainwater entering the bulb socket and causes the corrosion in the socket and making it so rusty. And repair or replace socket. Another one is to all tail lights and marker lamps out, but the headlights is okay. Then it could be a loose wiring connection, it could be a open wiring or poor ground, it could be a blown fuse, or it could be a damaged headlight switch. Then remedies would be secure wiring connections where accessible, check operation of front park and marker lamps, repair as necessary, and replace fuse. When you replace the fuse, the place blows again, you have to find the cause of of a blown fuse. It could be a short circuit somewhere in the harness. Okay, and the last one could be verify condition, replace headlight switch if necessary. Another symptoms: stoplights not work. It could be a fuse circuit breaker burnout. Just replace fuse or circuit breaker. If fuse or circuit breaker blows again, check for short circuit. You have to find it in all the electrical system. You have to trace them. Using using a circuit tester or using an ohmmeter or a volt multimeter, something like that. Warn or damage turn signal circuit. Check turn signal operation repairs necessary. Loose wiring connections. Okay, you have to find that out. Secure connection at stoplight switch. Worn or damaged stoplight switch, open circuit in wiring. It should be replace switch or repair as required. Then another symptom: stoplights stay on continuously. Damaged stoplight switch, just disconnect wiring connector from switch. If lamp goes out, replace switch. Switch out of adjustment, just adjust the switch. And if it cannot be adjusted, it's already damaged, and you just have to replace the switch. Internal short circuit in the wiring. If lamp stays on, check for internal short circuit. You have to find it somewhere using a multimeter and repair as necessary. And another symptoms could be a one parking lamp out. Possible cause could be a bulb burned out. Just replace the bulb. Open wiring or poor ground, repair as necessary, like looking for a damaged wire or looking for a loose ground. Because loose ground is a continuity of current. If there's no ground, there will be no movement or flow of the current. Then another one is corroded bulb socket. Repair or replace the socket. Then another symptom is all parking lamps out. Loose wiring connections, secure wiring connections, open wiring or poor ground, repair as necessary. Bad switch, replace switch. Okay. So, be sure the lights are turned off when you're doing the when you're doing the park light or turn signal light bulb task. So be sure the lights are turned off. Remove the screws that retains the front signal and park light assembly to the chassis. Pull the front signal and park light assembly forward as far as the wiring harness will allow. Turn the bulb socket 45 degrees counterclockwise to remove the socket from the housing. Pull the bulb from the socket. Inspect the light socket for corrosion on the socket and terminals. Clean the socket and terminals as necessary. If this socket was filled with dielectric grease, replace the grease before reinstalling. But you can use a rag to remove the grease and put a fresh the electric grease on the bulb, rather on the connector or the socket. Install new bulb in the socket, reinstall the socket in the light assembly, and then reinstall the light assembly on the chassis. Install and tighten the light assembly retaining screw. And be sure all the lights operate properly after the light assembly is installed. Okay. And this is how you're going to remove the removal of the signal and park light sockets and bulbs. As we know that the bulb is can be removed 45 degrees counterclockwise from the bulb socket. Before you do that, you have to remove the electrical connector first. Then, before you remove the bulb, okay? to avoid damaging the bulb. Okay, when it comes to hazard light diagnosis, okay, um, one symptom is turn signal lamps do not light. Possible causes are fuse or circuit breaker burnout, worn or damaged turn signal flasher, loose wiring connections, open circuit in wiring or poor ground, damaged turn signal switch. What are the remedies? Remedies are replace fuse or circuit breaker. If fuse or circuit breaker blows again, check for short circuit. You have to find that out somewhere along the wire harness to find the short circuit, some damaged wire, some damaged terminal, something like that. Then substitute a known good flasher replace if required. You know, you can uh, you can find out if the flasher is good or not. You know, when you energize the flasher connected to the battery, you will hear some tick-tocking sound inside the flasher. If that audible sound is if you hear that audible sound, then the flasher is good. If not, if there is no sound or total silent, then you have to replace the flasher. So replace if required. Then secure connections where accessible, repair is required. Check continuity of switch assembly, replace turn signal switch, and wiring assembly as necessary. Another symptoms, turn signal lamps light but do not flash, worn or damaged turn signal flasher or poor ground. Just substitute a non-good flasher, replace if required, and repair ground. Another symptoms, front turn signal lamps do not light, loose wiring connector or open circuit. Repair wiring as required. Rear turn signal lamps do not light, loose wiring connector or open circuit. Repair wiring as required. Another symptoms, one turn signal lamp does not light, bulb burnout, open circuit in wiring or poor ground, replace bulb, repair as required. Then hazard flasher lamps does not flash or do not flash. Possible causes could be a fuse or circuit breaker burned out. Replace fuse or circuit breaker. If fuse or circuit breaker blows again, check for short circuit. Possible cause is worn or damaged hazard flasher. Substitute a known good flasher, replace flasher if damaged. Worn or damaged turn signal operation, repair turn signal system. Open circuit and wiring, repair as required. Worn out damaged hazard flasher switch. What you could do is repair or replace turn signal switch and wiring assembly, which includes hazard flasher. Okay. So, typical procedure for changing a rear signal light bulb. Like number one, open the trunk lid and remove the rear trim panel. Turn the light socket 45 degrees counterclockwise on the bulb to be replaced. Remove the bulb from the socket. Inspect the light, socket, and terminals for corrosion, and clean as necessary. Install the new bulb in the socket and install the socket and rim panel. When it comes to testing bulbs and fuses, you can use a circuit tester just like that one on the illustration, where when the circuit tester is pointed to the one of the point in the test, rather in the fuse, the bulb inside the bulb test, the circuit tester will the lights will get on. Okay, or you can use bulbs, no, rather an ohmmeter or multimeter in using, in testing the continuity or the of the or rather the resistance of the fuse that you're going to test, or the bulbs that we're going to test. So bulbs and fuses may be tested with an ohmmeter. However, a quick visual often points out faulty bulbs easily. So when visually inspecting a bulb, look for signs of a burned filament. You know, the filament has its own useful life. Filament is usually made out of tungsten steel, and it has a higher melting point. But even the tungsten steel will also has its own lifespan. So when the filament is burned, and sometimes when you see a bulb, when you look at the envelope of the bulb, you don't see a filament because the filament is already burned out. So if that happens, then you have to replace. You don't even have to use an ohmmeter or a circuit tester. So often the inside of the bulb turns black. Okay, the inside of the envelope, it turns black because of the smoke created by the burning of the filament. So when testing a dual filament bulb with the digital ohmmeter, connect the leads from one of the bulb terminals to the case, and then connect the meter leads from the other bulb terminal to the case. An infinite reading with either meter connections indicate a burnout bulb filament. When testing a fuse, remove the fuse from the fuse panel and connect the ohmmeter leads when you're using the ohmmeter. But when you're not using the ohmmeter, you don't have to remove it because we're we're testing whether there's a current flowing into you have to test the 2 points, the two metal points uh, with a circuit tester, and the circuit test will lights will turn on if there is if the fuse is working okay. Okay, so in when it comes to a uh, ohmmeter, a 0 ohm reading indicates a satisfactory fuse, and a high or infinite reading indicates an open fuse. Fuses and circuit breakers may be tested using the same procedures, and the test results are also the same. Many technicians find that using test light is very efficient way to test fuses quickly. By checking for power or both sides of the fuse, they know that the fuse conducts electricity and is in good order, in good condition. Never contact the ohmmeter to a circuit with voltage supplied to the circuit. Otherwise, it may damage the ohmmeter, it may damage the multimeter. So if you have to select the ohmmeter to use it for ohm testing, then you have to select the selector to volts. Uh, some multimeter has DC volts. Some multimeter has AC volts. So when it comes to vehicles, you have to select the DC volts when you are testing the uh, the uh, the fuse or whatever. Okay. So to summarize, high charging voltage may cause the highlights to become excessively bright when engine RPM is increased. Okay. High resistance in headlight circuits reduces current flow and causes dim lights. If only one headlight is dim, the ground circuit on that light likely has high resistance. Measure the voltage drop in the headlight circuit to check the circuit resistance. Some moisture formation in non-vented composite headlights is normal. The glass envelope on halogen light bulbs should not be touched with your hands or with your fingers. Many light sockets are removed by rotating them 45 degrees counterclockwise. That's a standard design of the bulb. The bulb should be removed 45 degrees counterclockwise and then put it back clockwise. Uh, when you're and most of the bulbs are having a indexing pins, two indexing pins between two sides. Okay. Then headlights should be properly aimed vertically and horizontally. Digital ohmmeters do not require calibration. Okay. An ohmmeter may be damaged if it is connected to a circuit with a voltage supplied to the circuit. So you have to select the DC voltage or the DC volts. When an ohmmeter is connected to fuse terminals, a low reading indicates a satisfactory fuse. With an ohmmeter is connected across a filament and a bulb, an infinite ammeter reading indicates an open filament. So that's it for our topics for today. I hope you learn many things from these learning topics. So if you like it, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.